is why I don't think I could ever do this. My name is Boitha. So those industries don't pay very well, especially when you're a junior. When I got an offer to work for this insurance company, their salary was a lot better. They don't want you here because they wanted a white teacher. I was going to say one of the biggest thing that I would say people should not do is come to China on a tourist visa.
Bolovies, welcome to Community Living with your girl Malebu. If you're new to the channel, please remember to subscribe, and if you're stopping back by and continuously supporting the channel, you know the jingle by now, so sing along with us. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So okay, thank you to each and everyone that's been liking, commenting and sharing. You know the deal. I am with a special someone today. She'll be introducing herself. I don't come alone as you usually just see me on the screen. Can you please take it away?
My name is Boitha, and everybody calls me Boitha, but my full name is Boitha. I'm a South African and I'm from the Free State, a teeny weeny tiny small town, Frankfurt. If you know the Free State, you might know this, but yeah, that's me.
Okay, yes, so Boitha, or Boitha as most people refer to her, will be sharing her journey with us. So she's been in China for 8 years now.
8 years, yeah.
So it's been quite a while. So I thought she would be like a great guest to just take us through her experience in China, what she has learned, what we can do as people that are, you know, trying to come this side as well. So she'll just share a bit of her experiences, and hopefully it'll help someone to really have a better understanding. So Boitha, we also start the channel off in prayer. Are you someone that prays?
No, I'm atheist.
You atheist?
Yeah. I'm joking!
I'm about to ask you that part.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm not atheist. Okay. Yes. Are you going to lead us in prayer?
Let me lead us in prayer.
Okay.
All right. Father, we come to you in the mighty name of our Lord Jesus Christ. We thank you, Papa, for this day. We thank you for our lives. We thank you for our guest, for availing herself, Papa, for sharing the knowledge that she has regarding China, regarding her experiences. Last time, may you continue to shower her with your blessings, oh Lord, and may you help the people that are watching to really have a better understanding of what China's about and what teaching here could be. And thank you for our lives in the mighty name of our Lord Jesus Christ.
You are taking me to church and it's a Sunday and I haven't been to church in a minute.
Yes, okay. First question, so how has China been for you in the past 8 years?
It's been great. Like, honestly, I don't want to lie. Like, I've had such a great experience. It's been life-changing. In a good way, in really mostly a good way. I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it.
And what did you study?
So I studied corporate communications, BA corporate comms at UJ. What was
UJ stand up?
UJ stand up! Yes, I studied corporate communications. My second major was public management and governance. But it was, for me, I took the communications route more than anything,
So what made you decide to come to China?
Corporate. Corporate South Africa can be quite a pain to work in.
Yes.
When I first started working after my graduation, I interned for a really cool consulting company. And then when you intern in South Africa, sometimes, I don't know if other countries are the same, but you know how when you're interning, you don't get paid enough. You get a stipend, it's not enough.
Between 3,000 and 8,000, it depends.
Yeah, it was not great. Like, it was such a tiny stipend, and I think around the same time that I started this internship, I still had my parents paying for my rent because the stipend was just for transport, really, nothing else. I started working, and while I was working, no, let me take this back, like where the idea came in of me to want to work abroad. While I was a student at UJ, I worked a part-time job. I worked in this health store in Morningside. And
how did you'll come to how did you get that job while you're a student?
Yeah, one of my friends, my best friend, worked for the same shop. You know, when you're a student, sometimes you get...
It was retail.
It was retail. It was a retail store, but this one was just different because it was not, let's say, like Mr. Price, but it was a health store. My friend was working for the same company and they were opening another branch in Morningside, so then I went to work at the Morningside branch. So I was working there, and while I was working there, I worked with this older lady, this white woman who was not the store manager, but she worked in sales as well. she had her kids living abroad, and whenever we would have conversations at work, she would say, when you graduate, you should go live abroad, or you should take a gap year, go work abroad for some time. So she kind of planted that idea in my head. I was like, I'll do it when I graduate. But then when I graduated, I started working. You join the red race. Joined the red race, worked, and I think around 2013, I worked for an insurance company. And after having a background in communications, media, advertising, those industries don't pay very well. Especially when you're a junior, they don't pay very well. So when I got an offer to work for this insurance company, their salary was a lot better. I went to work there.
Okay, what were you doing at that insurance company?
So they scammed us.
So let's listen into the scam.
This is where the scam starts, right? We were a cohort. It was about 6 of us. When they took us in, we were supposed to work as the social media consultant specialist. It was around the time when social media was starting to grow, and companies were starting to get those departments running. And they got us in, and they were like, okay, you guys are going to work as social media specialists for the insurance company, so you will handle complaints, queries, everything on social media, because it was quite a big company. And I remember the first month we worked there, they were like, okay, for you guys to get a sense of how this works, we are going to put you in the call center department so that you get a sense of the customer service and the types of queries you're going to get, so that you get acclimated with what to expect. So now and then they will make us do the social media stuff and then put us in call center. Do the social media stuff, put us in call center. Until
2 birds, 1 stone.
Yes.
And you're like, you're getting
but wait, is this what I signed up for?
Yeah.
But this went on until we were ultimately just in the call center department. Fully. And we all were complaining about it, but nothing changed. But the salary was good.
Yeah.
You feel like, do I want to go back and work in an advertising agency and get paid like 8K when I'm getting, let's say, 15K in this other company? So I remember it was around the time when I was thinking, it's time for me to get a car. I was thinking to myself, let me buy a car. I was using public transport, and I figured, okay, it's time to move on. Let me get a car so that I can travel easier to work and
the convenience.
The convenience of it. And I don't know, I just had a moment around that time where I was like,
I can't really afford this.
Not really. I was like, do I want to buy a car and work this job that I hate, and then I'm gonna start paying for a car, and then now I'm stuck because now I have to pay for this car, right?
So
and
the job
I
is no longer about whether you like it or not. It's about I have to pay the bills.
I have to pay these bills, and I remember thinking, no, this is not gonna work for me. So then I just decided, I think it's time for me to finally just do that thing that I've been thinking about, which is going to go live abroad.
Yeah.
And so that's how I decided to come to China.
All right, that was a beautiful story that you shared with us. So
long, but
but like now people have an understanding of how these things happen,
right?
And you could be inspired by maybe watching this episode, and you're thinking like, okay, maybe I might want to like live abroad one day. So what have you learned so far living this side? What are some of the lessons that you learned? What kind of mindset shift have you had from, being in SA?
I feel like I've not had to think about these things, but recently I'm thinking about them a lot because I'm leaving.
Yes.
So I'm thinking about them a lot. But mindset shift. I think living here, I have not prioritized material possessions as much as I think I would have if I lived in South Africa. I know some people still do, even though they live in China. So there are people who are still like, I need to get myself a car, I need to buy an apartment, I need to own certain things, right? It doesn't, sometimes it's an investment, like investment properties and stuff, but I've not cared too much about those things since I've lived here. And I think a huge part of it is when you live in a country where things are quite convenient and easily accessible.
Without the need of ownership.
Yes, without the need of ownership. So for example, okay, apartments or property is different, right? But for example, a car. I don't care about a car because living here, you have convenient public transport and things like that. I don't know because.
But when you think about going back home, is that not like? You know?
Of course, it comes into play when I think about going back home. Even when I go to visit home, you know,
then you're like,
you get to see. You're like, oh, I need a car, or I need someone who's gonna help drive me around or whatnot, or use Ubers. But I really not care too much about material possessions. I've cared a lot more about experiences, and I think a huge part of it is because when you work as a teacher, at least in public schools or international schools or bilingual schools where you get these long holidays, you have opportunities to travel during the holidays. So for me, that is what has been the priority, like being able to see other countries, other Asian countries, investing in experiences and things like that. That has been a big thing for me, like since I've moved here. And I guess also just being open to new cultures and people, because moving here, you're not only exposed to Chinese people, but also people from countries that you would not necessarily be exposed to if you were in South Africa.
Okay. Yeah, so with regards to teaching, so can you please take us along like your journey, 8 years? How has it been, you know, when you started, what did you need to get started? If you still remember, and even other qualifications that you needed to get along the way that allow you to be where you are right now.
So when I first, because I guess to be able to teach, you need your TEFL certificate, right? A degree and a TEFL. So I got my TEFL before I moved to China because that's how I was going to get into my internship. So when I first moved to China, I didn't come to work full-time immediately. I came as an intern. I came through an organization called Eye to Eye. And this is really a company that helps people who are looking to do gap years, teach abroad for a year, volunteer abroad for a year. It's great for...
Do they still have the same programs? Or
I don't know. They probably do. They might.
Yeah, Eye to Eye still exists, so do check it out. I know you can get a TEFL certificate through them.
Yes.
I am just not sure about the program that Boitha just spoke about. So do look into them, especially if you're maybe struggling with things like flights. Did they sponsor flights?
No, they didn't. The only thing they sponsor is like they didn't sponsor any of you pay for it, they help organize. And then they place you in different schools. So I remember they took care of my visa and everything and placing me in a school. So it was a group of us. You have your 3 options of where you would like to be placed in China, and then they place you wherever there's a need. I was fortunate enough to be located in Beijing for my first placement, which is where I lived for like 6-7 years. And I just got my TEFL certificate, and then the first 6 months, it was a 6-month program. The first 6 months I was an intern for a bilingual school, and after the 6 months, and for me, the decision I took to take the internship, even though I could have worked full-time, because I was already qualified, like I already had a degree. So I could have chosen to work full-time, but I chose to do this internship because I was not quite sure yet if I would like China. And I needed to go with a credible company without just throwing myself.
Especially 8 years ago when the information wasn't as readily available as you can access it these days. So I came through the program, worked for 6 months. After 6 months, I was like, okay, I think I like China and I think I can live here. So then after the 6 months, I could have extended my contract with the company, but then I chose to go look for a full-time job myself. So then I worked for a training center after that. It was an adult training center. And it was great. And back then training centers were still good institutions to work for. Right now it's a so-so.
I don't even know if a lot of cities still have training centers actually.
Well, EF is a training center, I don't know.
So, and they're still running? Okay.
Fully.
I don't know.
So, the training center topic is... it's a sensitive one. It's one where nobody really knows what's going on.
Right.
and we don't even know how people are allowed to operate or not operate. Nobody has a definite understanding of what's going on with training centers. So it's a gamble. You go there and you might earn like a good salary, and next month it might be closed down.
Yes.
So that's what's currently happening,
So you have to
just
careful.
be aware, but not that you shouldn't take the opportunity, because if it's the only opportunity, it might be the only way that you can come this side, and then hopefully you find something better. You ended up getting maybe other qualifications later on. So what else did you need to do to...
So for me, my priority has never been to remain in education as a teacher. So I know a lot of people end up getting their PGCE and all that. I didn't. I still won't do it because that's not the direction I want to take with my career or anything else. One thing that I did start doing was to get into my master's for an MA in leadership and education, because if I am going to stay in education, I would like to be in the administrative side, because I've worked in admin before, in marketing, because my background is in communications and marketing. So I worked before in that area, and based on both my teaching experience and working in admin, I think I like working in admin more than I like teaching. I've enjoyed teaching, but I think if I am to stay in the field longer, I will be in administration. So I decided to attempt, that's what I'll call it. I attempted doing my master's, but it was extremely challenging for me to work while studying. I know a lot of people who are able to do it. They've been able to complete their qualifications. I couldn't. So I put it on hold, which is one of the reasons I'm leaving, because I would want to do it full time next year. But yeah, a lot of people end up doing their PGCE. I didn't. Yeah.
I see. All right, but with the current climate, would you say PGCE is has slowly become a requirement? Because I'm sure you see like the job post,
right,
and it's like, this looks like you need a professional teacher, versus back then 8 years ago
when all you needed was a TOEFL
and a degree. And so just for like a word of caution, so yes, if you are considering staying here for as long as Boitha has stayed here, which is 8 years, just know that the climate has changed slightly. So it might be something that wasn't a requirement back then, but now it's slowly becoming a requirement. So just note that as a side note. Okay. I might be expected to have it, whether or not I want to stay in the field or not. Just as as a minimum requirement, you might need to have it. That is what's different now.
Yeah, and I think also just it increases your opportunities or chances of getting employed. I think you still can get a job even if you don't have it, but if you have it, you probably have more opportunities than someone who doesn't. So it's important to, I guess, for people who are in China, it's important to upskill. And for people who are not in China, if you can come with the qualification already, you are at a better chance of getting a job than someone who doesn't. Yeah. And I think people who are here, the advantage they have is the fact that they've probably worked here for some time.
That's what I wanted to mention.
But if you are coming in, I would say just come ready with the qualifications.
Because the information we just shared might seem contradictory to you, because she's like, she doesn't want a PGCE, but she has 8 years experience. So her experience counts way more than any qualification. Okay, let's not call it any, but it counts. So she has a leg to stand on. So, if you don't have a leg to stand on, then a PGCE gives you it's the key, winning one of the keys to the door to just unlock it and be like, okay, maybe I can be able to get something. So just so that it's clear for everyone to understand what is the current job landscape within China. Okay, so with regards to teaching, what have you learned from teaching? What is one skill or lesson or virtue that you've learned?
So just a quick background. I come from a family of teachers, right? Like my aunts, my dad, a lot of my family members are teachers. And growing up, I didn't want to become a teacher. I didn't want to do it. And
It found you.
It found me. It's my blood. It found me, and really the only reason I did teaching was because it was the easiest way for me to come to China when I decided to come. But I remember when I first started doing it, I enjoyed it so much. It's unreal how much I actually enjoyed it. I absolutely loved sharing information with people, learning from the people I learned
because
you learn a lot. You learn a lot.
You can't teach without learning.
No. And I've been fortunate enough to work for schools where they prioritize professional development. So I learned a lot about teaching in general as a practice, which has been fantastic. Tons of leadership skills from observing other people, and just working in teams with different people. It's a multicultural environment mostly here, so I think that on its own teaches you so much about emotional intelligence, dealing with people, dealing with parents, because it can be so challenging. China is not easy when you are our color. Some people are fine and they're open-minded enough to accept that their kids are taught by someone who is not a white person, and other times they don't want that. And imagine
and you have to deal with that.
You have to deal with that.
So you have to emotionally regulate.
You know,
and not make it about yourself. And just minus yourself, subtract yourself a lot from situations.
It's horrible.
It's not about me.
So I think that's it. I've had to learn how to deal with people in ways that I don't know I could have experienced that back home.
Okay, I see. With regards to your work experience, can you share some really great work experience that you had and really bad work experience that you can think of, situational based? You don't have to mention schools and all of that, but just the gist of what it was about.
I think one of my best, I always talk about my very first full-time, my first real job outside of the program that I came with, the first full-time job I got. It was a training center it was an adult training center, so I was teaching professionals essentially who were just trying to improve their English. And I remember thinking, this was my first year, my first full year in China, right? And I remember just thinking, I'm so lucky to be working in this environment because I got to understand how Chinese people think from adults, right? Because I was teaching adults, so then we would have conversations, proper conversations. I would question certain things, they would ask me certain things, and it was a great way for us to learn from each other. And I think it gave me a great head start in understanding China and the culture
and the people.
So then I noticed that I wasn't getting as frustrated
as most
people were, because now I had a bit of an understanding of how they do this because of this reason, they behave this way because of this reason. So that was one of my best experiences, and coincidentally it was also one of my best working environments in China, or anywhere I've worked. I remember the working environment being fantastic. I'm so friends with some of the people I worked with there.
That's how great
great it was. It honestly, it stands out for me. And then the worst experience must have been when one of the schools I worked for in Beijing shut down, and
due to COVID.
Not COVID, it was just before COVID, but the school was going through financial challenges, and we did not get paid for quite some time, and it was quite worrying and scary because we didn't know. And the news, it was all in the news, they were reporting on how bankrupt the school is. The owner, they had several schools around Asia, and the campus in Beijing was the one that was kind of
mostly
affected the most. That was a difficult time. And one other one that I remember was when I had been hired for a primary school job in a public school in Beijing, and I remember my agent taking me there for my first day of school, and when I got there, I guess they didn't know that it was going to be a black person. I got there, the agent was like, "Oh, here's Boitha, first day, Boitha, go do," I had to do some tests, medical tests, and I went. When I came back to the school after lunchtime, my agent was like, we need to talk. The school doesn't want you here. Like, unfortunately, you can't continue working here. They don't want you here because they wanted a white teacher. So that was horrible. Like, that was my first experience of that. I had heard so many stories like that, but I had not gone through something like that. And it was, I remember just being so heart-wrenched. Yeah. I couldn't believe that was happening. I was in China for almost 4 years by then.
The experience, and
that was the first time it happened. Yeah. So
so it was solely based on your skin color, and you knew exactly what was the reason. It was like, okay, you didn't even get to know me.
No.
Okay, I'm such a lovely and fantastic person. Okay,
fine, they're lost. Okay, they're lost.
So that was quite sad. But the reason I kept on giving you guys the side, I was like, it's for you to realize that there's some experiences here that might leave you heart-wrenched, because it just happens that way, and you need to understand these things before you come here and not internalize them, and not make it about yourself. Because Boitha could have seen that as like, oh yeah, they don't want me here now, I'm packing my bags and leaving. And it's like, it's 1 or 2 schools that will act that way. It's not all of them. As she said, out of the 8 years experience, that was the first and only experience where she really dealt with first-hand racism of some sort. And to them, they don't see. Another thing is that with Chinese people, sometimes they don't see it as racism. It's like business as usual. It's a preference.
It's not racism.
Yeah, it's not racism. So to us, obviously, we will feel our own way, and both our feelings are valid. No one's feeling is to be discounted, but just be aware of such experiences, that this could be your very first experience in China, that the school doesn't want you. You flew all the way from USA, you get here, and then they're like,
nope, this is not
black.
What we want.
Oh, you don't want her.
Right.
What's the other experience of when they didn't pay you your salary for some time? So that's also possible.
Yeah, if you work for... And I think this happens a lot, but I can't even say it was a private institution. This was a well-known international school. Well-known. So I could not have guessed that they would go through that kind of experience, or I could have that experience with them. So you'll never know. You can just hope that I'm choosing a good school that follows the rules, but anything can happen.
Anything can happen. And I think that's what I'm just trying to share with you guys through Boitha's experience as well, that anything can happen. When you come here, mentally prepare for the worst, and if you get the best, then we thank God. You
can literally have some of the... I've had such wonderful experiences here, outside of work, at work, but you'll just never know. You just never know.
Oh, what are your tips for job hunting?
So I would say look for jobs from the school's website or on the school's website. I know it's going to be difficult if you don't even know what the schools are. I would say you go to the international schools website. There's an actual website called International Schools. ISS.
Very innovative.
Not mistaken. It's ISS.
Okay, I will type what exactly the site and put it in the description box, right? So we will do like a quick research after this, and I'll put it in the description box. So we'll put the link there.
I think that's that it. And then you have Scroll. Scroll is a fantastic one, especially for qualified teachers and to search for jobs in other, not only China, but other countries as well. ESL. What is it? Dave's ESL?
Yeah, Dave's ESL Cafe.
Dave's ESL Cafe is quite a good one. And I honestly, even just a basic Google search, honestly, guys, I feel like sometimes people, people overthink it, and people don't want to
do the research.
Guys, a basic Google search: international schools in China, or bilingual schools in China, public schools in China. You can get a list. Maybe if you have done your research on which city you want to live in, do your research, start with the city you want to live in, get a sense of what kind of city it is, ask around, and then once you've decided on the city, you can do a Google search of schools in China, public schools in China, bilingual schools, and then directly, they have websites. Most of them have websites. Go to their website, contact them. If you don't, agencies are the next
best thing, but
I don't want
not
to say the
really.
best thing, but not really. Exactly.
Not great.
Because they're not always great. So
yeah, 90% of the time agencies are really bad.
Yeah, they're
if
tricky.
you're forced to,
they're so tricky. I think I've worked with some really good agents in China when I have decided to go through that route of using agents. You can be lucky enough to find ones that are good. Ask around, use your networks to ask people who are already in China. They have better information, so I would say just ask them and look out for the red flags. I mean, some people would not know what the red flags are for China, right?
But the search information is shared on YouTube. Some people do have like
a list of red flags to look out for.
Yeah. So as Boitha mentioned, Google search, because if you Google search list of literally how we just mentioned it, red flags when it comes to teaching in China,
you will find
something. There's a lot of information on the internet these days. Like everybody's creating content,
right?
And you just have to take it with a pinch of salt. Every time you find content, remember content is quite subjective. It's my personal, it's that person's personal experience. It doesn't mean that's how everything how all the things will be like. So it's just that person's point of view and what they experience and how they're framing it as well. You know, so just understand that.
I was going to say one of the biggest thing that I would say people should not do is come to China on a tourist visa to work.
Oh yeah, that's a red flag. That's a red
flag. If your agent says to you, just come on your tourist visa and we'll change it, don't do it. Don't refuse. Just come here on a work visa. Especially if you're a South African, you can do that. So don't make it seem like it's so difficult to get.
It's not
documents, like legit documents. So
even if they tell you like the school wants you right now, we can't do it.
Don't do that.
You're gonna work illegally. The only way you're going to be working when you get here is illegally. Because that's what they're trying to do. They've already made up that plan in their heads, and they know how naive and that you haven't done research about it. So that's what they're taking advantage of. So as Boitha mentioned, that's the biggest red flag. I think I've mentioned it in one of the videos. I'll link it in the card and also in the description box of the documents that you need and some of the things that you need to look out for. I did mention that there's no other visa that you need to take apart from a Z visa. So don't accept coming on a business visa as well. So it's not just the tourist visa. If we can get you a business visa, don't do it. You're not here for business purposes. You're not here for tourists. You are here to work under this, like I think it's a work permit W1 or something like that. So get the right visa before you come here. So what are other red flags in terms of employment opportunities? So if maybe you get a contract, what do you need to look out for so that you don't get screwed in the process?
So you have, for example, what is it called? Probation periods. You have some schools.
How long should it be? Because I'm starting to see 3 months now.
3 months, I feel like that's what I know it as here.
Okay, 3 months. So 3 months is acceptable.
It is. And then I've seen some companies, for example, not include, let's say, medical aid. Like, make sure they include insurance, guys. Like, they should at least include that. That's something so basic. Unless they're giving you, like, a really good salary for you to cover that yourself. Medical insurance, housing. These are some of the things that are basic that they have to include in your contract. A lot of the companies will sneak in marketing. So for example, if they have marketing days, like I had an open day the other day, like yesterday at school. So things like that, if they have open days and they don't put it in your contract, they should compensate you for that because it's an extra working day. So make sure that they include it, or have a look at what they might sneak in. Like they might sneak in something like that, an open day, a bunch of other duties you have to do at work, night duties, lunchtime. There's a bunch of stuff, so just be on the lookout.
That you understand the roles and responsibilities properly, and what type of role it is, because there are different types of roles in China: homeroom teacher, a normal ESL teacher. So understand which role it is. Homeroom teacher, you have more responsibilities, but as an ESL teacher, they can hire you as an ESL teacher and then expect you to perform homeroom duties, because the salaries are also sometimes quite different, right? And so those are some of the things. So any other advice that you'd like to give Bolovies, I call them Bolovies, back community living, regarding teaching in China and your experiences around China?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like, more than anything, I would like just to say people should open themselves up to the experience. I think sometimes, you know, when people start to learn about the red flags and some of the stuff that might happen, they come here almost already closed off. They don't want to immerse themselves in the culture, and actually this can be an advantage for you. So if you open yourself up to the culture, talk to your Chinese colleagues, have an interest in their lives, you can have such a different experience, because when they see that you're open to them, they open up to you too, right? And then you can get to understand them and how they operate, and why you can understand the dynamics, and
it makes life easier,
so much more easier. I think when you come and you don't want to try anything, you're just closed off, you're unapproachable, you don't want them to invite you to anything, you just want to hang around other South Africans, and you don't want to hang around any other group of people. That can change your experience. Trust me. Open yourself up. There's so much to see and learn in this country. So I think that's one of the things. Like, just take advantage of the opportunity in every way, financially, with experiences.
Thank you very much, Boitha, for
having
yourself. And all the best with, I know you're gonna have fun in the next chapter. All the best with your new chapter. We got to understand how China has been for you in the past 8 years.
Of course.
And I think one thing I've learned as someone who's new to China as well is not closing myself off to learning, because it's quite important when you come to a new group of people. It's very important to immerse yourself in the culture. Don't treat them like outsiders in
their country,
and it's like you're not gonna have a nice experience.
That's so true.
So I'm also starting to learn from my university students, like asking them about the cultural relevance of certain things. I thought they wouldn't appreciate it, but the last class they actually were teaching me characters. They do love it. I got to see that firsthand in my previous class, whereas before I would just teach them English, and then just like, now it's time to go. So I'm gonna find ways of incorporating it so that I get to have a better understanding. I think the more you understand people, the more you can sympathize, and the more it can be a nicer experience for you all in all. May God bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. I love you, Boitha, and I love you, but God loves you more. Bye.